What do we do if Daboll and Schoen don't like any quarterbacks in this draft? That's the golden question, right? That's what everybody wants to know. Everybody's panicking. Here's my theory on that. First off, in this draft, Bad Dog, and I think the Giants are going to have a much higher chance, better chance to trade up. It's not as rich of a quarterback draft class as the year before, and that's not really a slight on this class, but the last quarterback draft class was loaded. Like Caleb Williams was an elite of a prospect as we've seen at that position at least over the last 3 or 4 years coming out. Jaden Daniels, Drake May, those guys are number one picks in almost any draft. They were that highly thought of. So I think there's going to be a higher probability that Giants, if they do like a quarterback, are going to be able to trade up. And you look at the teams that are more than likely going to be at the top of this draft. New England, they're not drafting a quarterback. They just took Drake May.
I honestly think New England's going to win more games than we do.
They might, but if they're ahead of us, I think they're a team that would be willing to trade out. I think the Giants will have the ability to trade up if they like a quarterback. And the other thing I'm going to say is this, and I hate saying this. The Giants may not love a quarterback in this draft, and I am so against doing this. But even if they don't love a quarterback,
their job,
they are going to draft one. They are going to convince themselves that they love one, even if they don't. Because Joe Schoen will convince himself and say, one, my job's on the line. Daboll's job's on the line. And I have nowhere else to turn at this point. You know, I've had 3 years to build this team. I now have that number one weapon with Malik Neighbors. I had that as a built-in excuse going into last year. The offensive line has looked at least moderately better when we're healthy this year. I've started to fix that. I can't keep selling the fan base that I need another year to keep building the team. I don't love a quarterback. So even if he doesn't love a quarterback, let me put it this way, Bad Dog. If J.J. McCarthy was the best quarterback in this year's draft class after we took Neighbors going into 2025, I think he would have taken McCarthy if we had the 6th pick in this upcoming draft. He is going to take a quarterback, even if he feels it's a slight reach. That's where I am. And I don't love that idea. I think that's dangerous. That's how we got here with Daniel Jones. But that's what I think is going to happen this week.
Well, I mean, they really overdrafted Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Like I said, 10 million people saw the way we reacted to that. We weren't happy. Oh, John, what are your thoughts on that?
I was going to say I would probably have a counter argument to that. I agree with what Bad Dog said, but what Chris said, but I don't think that they are going to reach for a quarterback because like you said, there are going to be other teams that are drafting ahead of us that don't need a quarterback. Yeah. If Jacksonville continues to suck, they just paid Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, and the Chargers. Like if these teams continue to suck and, we end up with a top 5 pick or whatever, I could actually see them trading back thinking like, oh, well, we can get a quarterback later and still get more draft picks. So I don't think they're going to reach. I do think they will draft a quarterback regardless. But I think when you look at all different draft classes, like I don't think any of these guys coming out are going to have the talent that Lamar Jackson had, but Lamar Jackson was picked number 32 overall. He was the last pick in the first round. So I think I make that point to say, like, I don't think that just because they're in the 6th spot or whatever they end up in, that they will be like, we have to pick a quarterback right now because we don't think that we can get one later or anything like that. Yeah. And I also think at some point, like, if they really believe, like so many people say, that Daboll is that guy and he turned Josh Allen into the Josh Allen we all know and love, then you got to assume that they have some amount of faith to say that as long as they pick a quarterback that has, I don't know, whatever top 3 out of 5, who knows, whatever the couple traits are that they really love and value in a guy, that they're going to pick him regardless and trust Daboll that he's going to be able to take him to that next level. Where with someone like Jones, they knew what he has. They knew he wasn't worth a 6th overall pick, and they knew that Daboll was only going to be able to do so much, like he's only able to do so much with Drew Lock and I don't know what the deal with Tommy DeVito was, but he was a UDFA as opposed to like a 3rd round pick,
Yeah, I didn't want to make it seem like I think they're definitely going to force a quarterback pick, but I think they're going to be able to convince themselves more easily now that they love a quarterback because they know they need one that bad. So I don't want to use the term force, but I worry that they will force it this year. Let's put it that way. In the past, I didn't think they would because they had the built-in excuse. We're still building.
Chris, they didn't do it this year. They could have taken McCarthy 6.
But next year, I think they'd be more prone to taking a quarterback like McCarthy, a guy that they like because they could convince themselves now, we've got Neighbors. We've got that elite weapon. We could get a lot out of this quarterback. So that's just where my head's at. Bottom line is I'm convinced. I don't know what quarterback it's going to be. I don't know who they're going to love. They are going to draft a quarterback, and I think they're going to trade up to get one. I don't think they're going to stand pat and just wait for the guy to get to him because there's going to be willing teams to trade back, and they're not going to mess around. They're going to show full confidence in the quarterback because they know they have to be able to sell the fan base on hope. Listen, we love Cam Ward so much that we were willing to trade a future first-round pick.
I love him that much.
I'm just saying.
I know you
do.
I'm doing it.
But that's what I think is going to happen. Unless, of course, we keep losing and we have the first or second pick. But I think we're going to trade up. I really do. If we're picking 5, 6, 7, I think we're going to trade up.
That's what I was going to ask you, Chris, is if we're picking 5th, do you think that they trade up?
Yes.
Okay.
If there's a team willing to trade back, which I think there will be.
I don't think there will be at that point. Now, there's a couple of teams I worry about. Like Adriana mentioned, Jacksonville is not doing it. Like you mentioned, New England's not doing it. I still think New England's going to win more games than we do. Jacksonville, I'm not.
Jacksonville might. Trevor Lawrence is not very good. Well, they gave him an extension though. So
yeah, he got a lot of money.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
$55 million a year. I mean, people rip on the Jones contract, and I am not going to say that the Jones contract was good, but giving Trevor Lawrence $55 million a year is going to go down, I think, as one of the worst contracts. As it's going to come close to Deshaun Watson.
I was going to say the Watson and the Wilson one's bad too. The Russell Wilson one was bad.
The Dak one is bad.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Quarterback contracts in general just really bad. The Cousins one looks really bad now with the Falcons. Like they're just bad.
Yeah.
Oh, they're winning though. At least they're winning games.
Yeah. But they drafted Penix the same year. Like why?
I don't know why they did that. That was weird. I wish we took Michael Penix.
Well, we're on this subject for a second. Something just popped in my head saying that like New England doesn't need a quarterback. There was a lot of talk during the preseason that Joe Milton is a very good quarterback. And you've got Michael Penix, who's a backup, and some of these other quarterbacks. I think someone in the chat mentioned Hendon Hooker. I don't think the Falcons are trading Michael Penix. I think that Kirk is going to be like Daniel Jones. It's a 4-year deal, but maybe he's going to play one more year and then he's going to get cut if they have an out, and then Michael Penix is going to play. But I wonder if, let's say, the Giants are looking at this draft class and they say, we don't like any of these guys, but maybe New England is willing to trade Joe Milton for us because Joe Milton, who was like a 6th round pick last year, but everyone had him going earlier, things like that. Like, I wonder if they would go for something like that. I know people are talking about Stafford. I don't think they're going to do that. They're not going to pay that much money for an aging quarterback. But what if they did something like that as opposed to getting a quarterback in this year's draft class? I don't know, but I just wonder if I'm sure all options are on the table. Aside from Matt Stafford, I don't really think that's on the table for them.